Right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kieran, and yes, I know, welcome back to a very long overdue episode of Creating Our Own. See, I've actually been planning on doing another episode of this series for a long time. I want to say, I think it's been over a year now since my since my last episode. But yes, anyway, I am here, yes, I am back with this series and with an interesting concept for Resident Evil 8. You see, this idea, I've always wanted to do like a Resident Evil 8 create our own video, because I've had hundreds of ideas for Resident Evil games over the years. I actually did an idea for one way back at the very start of the channel, which some people actually quite enjoyed. It was called like Resident Evil 8 Storyline Ideas or something like that. And people really did enjoy it. But recently, a lot of leaks and all that have came out about leaks have came out about the game being set in like a castle and shit like that, and having werewolves and shit. Do I believe them? Well, you're just going to have to listen to one of the podcasts and try and find out for yourself, eh? I'm not going to talk about that this episode. Yes, because today I'm not here to talk about the leaks, but this video was all inspired by them, because I was like, I don't really want to do a video about the leaks, but I do want to do a Resident Evil 8 video. What can I... Oh... Well, hello there. By the way, just before we jump right in, yes, I am aware I have a stash. Yeah, let's just get that out of the way. Without further ado, let's dive into my Resident Evil 8. Resident Evil 8 is set 4 years after the previous game and follows Jill Redfield, yes I know, daughter of BSAA legend Chris Redfield. I know what you're thinking, how does Chris have a daughter? Well, don't worry, I will explain that in a wee minute, just give me time. The story begins with Chris taking his daughter on a road trip across Europe, starting from Spain with the end goal being a town in Estonia. The road trip starts out awkward as Jill and Chris haven't really been together since Jill was a young age. Despite the rocky start, the two start to bond and grow a good father-daughter relationship the more they travel through Europe. 2 weeks into the trip, they end up in Germany, sightseeing and meeting the locals. The local villagers warn Jill and Chris of the infamous Lost Road, a road that is known for its regular disappearances. Chris dismisses the locals, however, knowing that it's all just scary campfire stories to scare tourists. Jill and Chris continue their journey and take the Lost Road. Yes, it's not a great idea. A wee while in, the car runs out of gas and breaks down, leaving the two out in the middle of nowhere. Chris leaves Jill to stay in the car as he hitchhikes back to the last petrol station. Again, after a while, Jill starts to worry about her father. Leaving the car, she starts to follow this trail that Chris previously took, although she spots patches of blood in his wallet on her travels. Jill follows the trail all the way to a massive hillside castle called Gruesel Castle. It is here where the game truly begins, as Jill discovers the castle is filled with traps, locked doors, and the fucking undead. So yeah, that was basically the overall premise of the story. It is about Jill Redfield, the daughter of Chris Redfield, trying to find her father, who has gone missing inside this weird, horrific castle, and it's pretty cool. I do like this sort of setup to the story. So before we talk about, you know, everything, let me just explain the main character just for a wee second. So after Resident Evil 7, I did want another new character who hasn't really experienced any biohazards before. So I wanted this character to have all those components of like innocence, of like an experience, but I also wanted the character to feel familiar and then fit right into like the Resident Evil character lineup. So I thought, oh, well, since we're in like the year 2020 and Chris Redfield is like fucking 53 years old, he's bound to have at least one kid in those years. If Albert Wesker, you know, managed to get a kid pumped out over those years, I'm pretty certain that Chris could have gotten at least one. Jill was born in 2002 to an unnamed mother and Chris Redfield, who both previously had like a short-term relationship. She was named after Jill Valentine, of course, who supported Chris in the background throughout the pregnancy. Now, the reason why Jill was never mentioned in the games was because, you know, Chris attempted to keep her off the record due to the nature of his work. I must admit, see if I had a kid and I knew there was my crazy mutated nemesis Albert Wesker was out there, I wouldn't really want him knowing I had a child just for any sort of leverage at all. Chris rarely visited Jill growing up, maybe only seeing her at least once a year, which establishes their rocky relationship at the start of the game. So on August 4th, 2021, the week of Jill's birthday, in an attempt to reconnect with his daughter, Chris takes her on a road trip across Europe. Having Chris as like a secondary protagonist, I feel is quite cool, because he's been through so much shit over the years, he knows how to handle these sort of situations, so having a character that's always in danger and actually making him vulnerable is quite fun for me, especially like from a storytelling aspect as well, because he's always sort of in control, you know? And also like Chris Redfield being captured and being in danger just puts all of this into perspective on how dangerous this situation must be. So who took Chris Redfield? What is Gruesel Castle? And why is there zombies there? Well, all these questions lead to the one person, Dr. Ashton Fields, the main antagonist of Resident Evil 8. Ashton Fields was a former scientist who grew up in Norway with a great ambition and a chaotic mind. He became quite successful with pharmaceuticals for the Norwegian company Technip, which resulted in him being noticed by none other than the Umbrella Corporation. He was quickly snatched up by Umbrella and soon became a top employee for the company. Despite his great success, he never really reached his full potential at Umbrella, constantly clamouring to get to the top. He even became obsessed over the T-Virus project but never got to fully work on it. In 2003, with the fall of Umbrella, Fields was left out of a job with no one wanting to hire him due to his involvement. Luckily for him, he was the descendant of the wealthy Gruesel family, and eventually inherited Gruesel Castle. It is here he quickly returned to his devilish work, attempting to create more strains of the virus and to create his own bioweapons. He even began kidnapping the locals from time to time for experimentation purposes. So how did this little tiny nerdy fucking scientist manage to grab Chris Redfield of all people? Well, he didn't actually. It was one of Mr. Fields' horrifying creations called Der Diner. Der Diner used to be a man called Herman Jacobs and served as the castle's main butler for many years. He was loyal to the Gruesel family, but despite his loyalty, he became Ashton's first victim. He warped and mutated Herman into becoming Der Diner, a loyal, unstoppable mutant that is forced to obey Ashton's commands. Der Diner is actually the one who is responsible for kidnapping travellers on the Lost Road, including Chris. So Der Diner is essentially the secondary protagonist of the game, technically the main because you're going to be fighting him primarily throughout the entire thing, and he acts as some sort of stalker like you would see in Remothered, Haunting Ground, and even Resident Evil 7 with the Jack Baker. Due to Ashton's pure insanity, he changed the castle into a crazy fucked up madhouse filled with traps and other deadly things. The enemies you'll encounter in the castle are all victims of the mad scientist, and you'll find even old documents explaining their backstory. I wanted this new location to be filled to the brim with backstory, lore, so while exploring as Jill, you will uncover a lot of background information and a lot of backstory on like Der Diner, you know, Herman, Ashton, the Gruesel family, what happened to them, and then what happened to all the victims as well. All this will be explained just through exploration alone. So if you want to really uncover most of the story, you will have to search in every room, read every note to fully get everything. Not everything will be told just through cutscenes and stuff like that. You will also discover how the Connections gets involved in the story. That's right, the Connections are here, but they're not like there, if you get what I mean. They influence the story, kind of like how they did in Resident Evil 7, but you know, you'll find out information once you play and you gather notes and stuff like that. I'm not going to tell you. So yeah, that was basically the premise and story of the game. I do really love it, to be honest, because I did want to bring in elements from the likes of Remothered, Haunting Ground, Resident Evil 7, while keeping all of that RE formula in check. I do feel like having the likes of Jill Redfield as a main protagonist is key to this Resident Evil game, because it passes the torch on to like the next generation of characters, you know, because Ethan was alright, but he wasn't really tied into the main overall world, you know, like I wanted to sort of go along the lines of Revelations 2 with Barry Burton's daughter. So, I think it's time to talk about one key thing. I talk about formula there, let's talk about some gameplay. Gameplay is something I had a good think about, to be honest. The challenge of thinking about gameplay for a Resident Evil game is how to innovate without losing the core mechanics and elements. Well, I would say this challenge kind of goes towards every sequel to any game, but you know, fuck it. So let's start with something rather simple, because it is a big fucking debate amongst the community, which is perspective. In my Resident Evil 8, the game will allow you to play neither Resident Evil 2 Remake third person or Resident Evil 7's first, with the added option of having VR in there, just because it worked so well in Resident Evil 7 beforehand. See, the reason why I chose to have both options in here is quite simple, and that's just because, you know, you want to please as many people as possible, and having just that option and going into the menu being like, hey, do you want to play in third or first? And it's like, oh, I want to play in first. Okay, there you are. You can do that. And if you come here as well, it's like, oh, but what about fixed camera angles? Well, that is not in this game, because that is dead and gone, unfortunately. I do like fixed camera angles. I do like it. But, like, I feel like we've moved on so much since then that I don't really feel like they're impactful. Resident Evil 8 will be a pure survival horror title, a Resident Evil game at the core that is very similar to the original 3 games. It will have that classic RE formula, but will also have a touch of Hunting Ground Clock Tower in there with stalkers and stuff like that, like I've said before. Limited resources and challenging combat is here as well, alongside backtracking and item management. Jill's inventory will start with 6 slots, with an opportunity to upgrade as you progress through the game. If you find that your inventory is full, you can always backtrack to one of the few save rooms in the castle and use the great item box to store some goodies. Items you expect to find is stuff like first aid sprays, gunpowder and herbs. Speaking of herbs, actually, they're actually more fun this time around. Because Gruso Castle is very unpredictable, so will the items. This means that some herbs, which are random by the way, will be infected. So when an infected herb is consumed by Jill, she will begin to hallucinate and her health will lower to a constant warning. Basically meaning like, so throughout the duration of like Jill being high per se, you will constantly be on warning and you cannot like heal yourself up past that point. You'll need to wait until the high is gone before you can like heal yourself back up again. So zombies could pop out at you when you take this infected herb, and you might not know if they're real or it's just your mind playing tricks. There is a way to get around infected herbs, and that is by going back to the save room and purifying them. Also a touch on items as well, there will be a randomizer option, so basically in the menus and when you start a new playthrough, you will have like various options like difficulty and stuff like that. You'll also have like a randomizer option, which essentially just changes the positions of each item throughout the game. Combat works quite interestingly in this game. Since Jill hasn't really used firearms before, she will be extremely rusty when using them for the first time. However, the more you use certain weapons, the better Jill becomes at using them. So an example here that I sort of gained influence from is Kingdom Come Deliverance. So Kingdom Come Deliverance, at the start of the game, you are not good with the sword, you're not good with the shield, you're not good with any weapons whatsoever. You're not going to take down any enemy with it. So your fights at the start of the game will be poor, they'll be shit, and you can't really do much. So I brought that into Resident Evil 8. So at the beginning of the game, Jill, she can use weapons, she can use the handgun, she can use the shotgun, but like she'll miss reload and stuff like that. She reloads pretty shit. She doesn't really know how to use the gun that well, so you're going to be like fucking aiming all over the place, you know? So the more you use the weapon, the better Jill becomes at it, so that means you can see her reloading faster, you can see her being more precise in her aiming throughout the game, but there's a wee downside to it. But there is a downside to everything, and the downside here is that if you want to save ammo, because like throughout the game, if you do want to improve in your aiming, if you want to improve in your gunplay, then you're going to need to shoot enemies, right? But if you're conservative like me and you don't really want to go around guns a-blazing, you're not going to be so good at the weapon because you're not using it as much, which means later in the game when you're going up against a boss, your Jill won't really be as prepared for the fight as someone who would be going through and shooting up the place, you know? But then again, if you're going around and shooting up the place, you're not going to have the ammo for the boss either, so there's a downside to like everything, which I quite like. Gruso Castle is laid out quite similar to Spencer Mansion. The castle is fucking huge with many rooms to explore and navigate, but it's also locked up tight with a variety of keys. So along the way, Jill will have to find the sword, shield, armour and bow key. You know, just to add that classic Resident Evil touch. Now on to the more intriguing part of the game, and that's something I hinted at earlier, which is the enemies. and Der Diner. Going back to my main influences, Der Diner is similar to a Stalker in Remothered, with the fact that he's constantly present in the game. He will never be an enemy that just goes away for a time and only appears at like key moments of the game. He will be a constant in your playthrough. He can be defeated for a certain amount of time, but he will get right back up and on pursuit. Just to emphasise how terrifying this fucking guy is, Der Diner, bear with me for a wee second here, Der Diner can enter save rooms. Yes, he can. But don't worry though, there is a way to counter this, there is a way to keep him out of a save room. So let me just put you into a situation for a wee moment. So you're dashing back to your save room, right? You may have a few items on you, you need to save, you need to heal, and Der Diner is on your fucking ass, and you're like, oh, if I get to the save room, I'm essentially fucked because this guy can fucking boot the door open and just come and kill me anyway. Don't you worry, because when you enter that save room, you have a few moments, because I'm going to guess you're a wee bit ahead of Der Diner. Once the door closes behind you, you can turn around and you need to lock the fucking door. That's right, every time you leave that save room, you need to lock the door manually, because if you don't, Der Diner will come and kill you. I don't know, I found this like a really cool little aspect of the game. It was actually influenced by a little rumour that was going around ages ago about Resident Evil 3 Remake, with Nemesis being rumoured to like enter save rooms and stuff like that, and I was like, that is really cool and fucking dangerous, I love that. But the downside to it is, like, if they constantly enter the save room, then that just makes it so irritating, so you need a way to counter it, which is why you want to have the locked doors. Zombies, hunters, and all the other interesting RE enemies will make a return in this game, but slightly altered. Due to Ashton's experiments, zombies and hunters will appear slightly different, but will remain the same in core mechanics. Zombies can mutate slightly when fighting the player. Some may, pick up the pace when they spot Jill, or some might actually develop like additional limbs and start crawling about the place, like fucking that wee kid from The Grudge. One key detail though about the zombies is that you can hear their old selves being still there. Because at the end of the day, they were human beings, so like, when you're going through the hallways and you're going to hear these zombies moan, you might sometimes hear them say, "Please help me." Sorry. Which I feel sort of brings a bit more sympathy towards the zombies instead of just having them there as like shooting targets, And obviously with Ashton's like mutations and experiments on like a strain of the T-virus, they won't fully become the zombies you would see in RE2 Remake where they're completely mindless. Like, some of them are still slightly there and might fight back, so it's like, as they are coming to attack you, the good part of them, the slightly tiny bit of human in them is like trying to hold back, Now on to, wait for it, multiplayer. Yes indeed, my Resident Evil 8 has multiplayer in it, and you're going to love it. So earlier in the game, I did mention that Jill will uncover the backstory of like the zombies and some of the previous victims that Ashton were experimenting on. Well, you'll be playing them in this mode. Not the zombies, well, like, when they were actual people. So an easy way to explain this multiplayer component is by simply saying Resident Evil Outbreak Mini. So yeah, this will essentially be Outbreak with 4 players playing different survivors attempting to escape the castle 5 years prior to Jill arriving. The mode will contain all the core components of the main game, but just with multiple players. It will essentially be a short story, and the campaign can last about 3 to 4 hours. Each character will be unique as well, it's essentially Outbreak Mini. Each character will have their own little special niche. Some might be better at weapons, some might be better at tech, some people might be better at unlocking doors and shit like that, But I wanted this in there just to have a little bit of fun, It's like, some people don't really like having multiplayer in these games, but I think if you have the right kind of multiplayer, it will work, And if the Outbreak campaign or what I call the short story works out, then you could always add more like campaigns in the future through DLC, I would pay for it. I know I'm the one developing this game, but I would definitely pay for it. So that was my concept for Resident Evil 8. What do you think about it, and what is your concept for a possible Resident Evil title? Let me know down in the comments below. Special thanks to my lovely wee patrons, KG, Proxy1, TG Monster, and Enigma Plays 115 for your continued support over my Patreon. Thank you guys so much. I do really appreciate it. So yeah, that was this episode of Creating Our Own. I hope you do enjoy. I do have another one lined up, the Bioshock one, the script, ready to go. I can do it. I might just record it now, actually, the same day. Fuck it. You know, why not? Because it's been ready for ages, but I've always wanted to try and do the same setup I did in the very first Creating Our Own video. You know, the one with the desk and the camera's like centered and shit like that. I've got my pops and all that here. I've got a few pops, you know, lined up here. I might go over this setup with like for more Creating Our Own episodes. So yeah, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. But thank you all for watching the video. I do appreciate it. And again, let me know what you think about the idea. I want a discussion here. I want to know what you guys want for a Resident Evil 8. So yeah, let me know. And thank you for watching the video, and I shall see you all next time. Bye bye.